Get started. It's 1 o'clock. Calling the Injury Prevention Committee meeting to order. Mary Ann, you want to lead roll call?
Yes. So Shelley's not here. She had to be out of town. I am here. Wayne Dennis. Here. Cassandra Dillon.
Here.
Courtney Edwards.
Present.
Robert Shenoy. Mark Spartman. Here. Good timing. I was trying to hold off calling your name. You're welcome. Sandra Williams.
Here.
Okay, so we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have quorum.
Wonderful. Moving along our agenda here, approval of our August meeting and our October workday committee meeting minutes.
So have y'all taken a look at all of those? We sent out the August and the workday ones. So do I have a motion for approval?
A motion.
And
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Any opposed? Wonderful. Our EMSC update is, oh, there he is. Hi, Sam. Welcome.
Please speak into the microphones. Thank you.
Hello. I was trying to find my notes here from Dr. Shenoy on the, as you know, Dr. Shenoy heads up our work group on injury prevention, and he continues to do work with drowning prevention activities in the Houston area, and I think they are joining up with the YMCA in Houston to begin doing some drowning prevention activities in the area, and are going to be teaming up with the Houston Fire Department as well. Let's see. He is also continuing his work as far as reaching out to the different injury prevention groups of the RACs to develop an organized system along with our National Pediatric Readiness Project data to help integrate that throughout the state. As far as EMS for children is concerned, as most of you are aware, we are funded through a federal grant from HRSA. HRSA has decided to sunset the National Resource Center, which is located in Washington, D.C., and they are putting out a new grant for what will be called the EMS for Children Innovations and Improvement grant. So what that will be, it will make EMS for Children more quality improvement focused. Excuse me. So HRSA has specifically reached out to the Baylor College of Medicine to apply for this grant, as Baylor College of Medicine has many of the experts that they turn to on a regular basis. And that grant, the FOA is out for it right now. It will be due at the beginning of January with a very quick turnaround time. And they hope to have the awards out by June. To start in July. So if Baylor College of Medicine were to get this grant, it is a national program. It would be a national office. Like I said, it will be taking the place of the National Resource Center, and it would be a huge thing for the state of Texas as far as national recognition is concerned. The only other thing I have for you is that the EMS for Children State Partnership, we have a new person on board with us. Her name is Dr. Ramsey Tate. She is going to be the new Associate Program Director, and over the next year she's going to be learning what Dr. Shaw's role is, and will eventually move into the position of Program Director in about a year or so. And she will be here at the conference, and she'll be over at our booth in the exhibit hall, which we have a booth in the exhibit hall if you want to come by and say hey. So, and that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evaluation of our hospital-based injury prevention component document. This was on our agenda, and we discussed at our work group meeting. For the audience, we sent out a survey link regarding evaluation and feedback on our big project that we had completed last year, which was the hospital-based injury prevention components, the recommendation of what is critical for hospital-based injury prevention in their program planning and implementation and evaluation. So we've received 49 responses so far, which we're happy with. Tons of fabulous information on the survey, of which we're digesting and processing and moving forward. So we had promised that this hospital-based injury prevention components was a living document, and this is the way that we're going to continue and hold true to that and make it a living document, taking the feedback from people that have used the document, reviewed the document, and improving it as such. And so if we would love to have more responses. The survey is still open. We'll be happy to send that out and get additional information if you have used the document as such and not completed the survey. But so far, I mean, from the committee members, any comments, questions? It was lots of comments in the survey, which helps us as writers very much so in moving forward and evolving this document. So that was perfect. Our holiday-specific trauma registry report. So this was a request that we had to the state trauma registry. We really wanted to know, were there specific mechanisms of injuries that we were seeing around certain holiday times? Fab, you're coming on up. Wonderful. So, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Dan Dow, and I'm taking over for Chris Drucker of the Injury Epidemiology Surveillance Branch at Department of State Health Services. And last time at this GTAC, we were asked about looking at holidays and if the type of injuries differ on holidays. The overall message is that even though there are some differences, and the differences we saw are that in the summer during the July 4th, fire injuries do increase, and then we have some incidences throughout the year where hit or struck by against, what we, the injury term for it, increases, and this is Labor Day and Halloween. But for the vast majority of days and holidays, falls and motor vehicle crashes are still the main reasons why people are transported and go to trauma centers. So there's slight variations in days about what happens on the 4th or 5th highest thing, but the top two are pretty predominant or pretty long-standing. So there's slight variation, but these are minor variations compared to the overall makeup of what's happening every single day.
So we got the email, and some of us looked at it and talked about it. There were a few things that you might be able to help us with and break us down a little more. So they broke down for the age for the whole holidays, but what we thought might be a little more helpful is looking at, New Year's holiday, unintentional fall is the leading mechanism. Well, let's look at the age distribution, like the top 3 ages for falls under New Year's versus falls for Halloween. Is there a difference in the age population that we're seeing instead of just combining all the holidays for the ages? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that would make sense.
And the same thing with the motor vehicle crashes. MVC, or motor vehicular trauma, was level number 2 for all the holidays. Well, is there an age distribution that might help us to try to target a population group in that aspect?
That's a good hypothesis if you believe on Halloween, drunk driving would increase in young adults, like 18 to 35. My guess, though, with falls is the senior population is so large
It's
that
going to dominate.
Yeah, for any number to even touch it would have to be freakish. Just what we've seen in our state and this state, you're talking about, I think like 50 to 60% of falls happen past 65 years of age, and these are pretty serious falls. So we can look in that, and that's a good point to look at age-specific breakdowns across the year.
So, and another thing that kind of caught Shelley's eye was that the overall age-adjusted injury rate. So overall, it was in the 6s until we hit Independence Day, and then it jumped up to 8. And so trying to figure out, maybe think through the process as the group, talk about maybe why that might be different for 4th of July.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. If the age-adjusted rate goes up, I don't think it has to do a thing with age, the age range. It may just be more injuries on that day. But we added a buffer of 2 days before and after. So you're looking at a lot of variation when it comes to year. We know if there's a 4th of July on a Wednesday, there's going to be a lot less partying than the 4th of July on a Friday. So dealing with these time variations are going to be pretty difficult. There's also a lot of things, we can't account for, such as heat. If it's 120 degrees that 4th of July, people are probably going to stay inside. But if it's only 97, we're going to expect more people to be outside, more incidences of probably violence, and then probably drunk driving because it's just easier to be out and to be about. So when we look at holidays, there's so many things that we can't control for, but we can try to do our best to try to look at 4 or 5 years and how it changes. But because holidays land on weekends and possibly in the middle of the week, they aren't as consistent as it would be like a Thanksgiving, which is always going to be on a Thursday. Where the holiday lands is a big influence on what type of venues you're going to see. And then, of course, accounting for things like weather and things like that really change it. So it's a really good question, but there's, data-wise, we have to think about. There's a lot of confounding.
Okay. Well, thank you very much
Hey, thank you.
for that. And we look forward to working with you. Welcome to Texas.
Hey, thanks.
Next, our evidence-based texting and driving prevention initiative. This is kind of morphed into not just texting and driving, but distracted driving, safe driving practices. This was really the meat and potatoes of our workday meeting that we had in October, where we really broke this down and was looking through this process. We've kind of changed our approach and how we were going to look at this. We've divided up, Marianne has the notes and the assignments, so we're going to have each of the committee members look at different sources of information, pulling from them best practices out of those sources, from all of that, bringing them together, and then as a committee, discussing the evidence behind those recommendations and kind of giving them a grading scale so that we can give them a stoplight approach. So these are green light, this is things that you should absolutely be moving forward trying to do in these patient populations or as a whole for the state of Texas. These are yellow, so caution, proceed, or red, please do not do these interventions. They're not proven to be effective. Does the committee have any discussions about tackling this project and their approaches?
So it sounds really simple. It sounds really simple. Just so that you all know, this is going to take some time, because when we all got together last month during the massive flooding and rainstorms, most of us were there. Some of us were eating breakfast tacos other places. But anyway, sorry, because of floodwaters. But when we got together and looking at being responsible with all of the journal review, the scientific evidence reviews, the different types of interventions, and how it is justified as truly an evidence-informed practice, it's going to take a little bit of time, but when each section is done, and this one being the distracted driving, I think you all will be able to pick it up and really use it in your programs and have some really good, strong programs because of this. So just be a little patient with us as we trudge through it.
Any other comments? Perfect. So you'll be seeing and hearing us discuss this and move forward with this throughout the year. And then we'll hopefully have a finished product for you at the end. Our potential injury prevention conference, so we are working with the state of Texas, with different stakeholders. The plan is to have an injury prevention conference here in the state of Texas in May. May 4th and 5th is what we're looking at. And this is going to be open to the masses. It will be in San Antonio, is the location of the conference. Details are still being worked out. All the finite things are coming, but know that it's coming. Put it on your schedules. This is your announce the save the date. In conjunction with this statewide conference, we are also going to do a more of a leadership track where we're looking at individuals throughout the state of Texas in various organizations and groups that are assuming or have assumed a leadership role in injury prevention, and we're going to try to bring those individuals together. We're aiming for, and this is not just us, I'm just speaking on behalf of the whole committee, conference planning committee, bringing them together before the conference to get them trying to build through and work through how we can strengthen the injury prevention, professional knowledge base, and professional resources here in the state of Texas to make injury prevention that much stronger. So pulling from those leaders, helping those leaders that are already in existence, what barriers are they still encountering? How can we help them as a whole with all of us getting together and then moving forward into the conference the next 2 days? So that is on the horizon, something to be very excited about here in the state of Texas, and good things are coming from that. So knowing that that is coming. Any questions from the committee on that? Comments? Perfect. Objective number 7, the Hartford Consensus 3 report, as it relates to the public and serving first responders. So the Hartford Consensus, out of this, there's been a whole lot of focus on, the White House has initiated their campaign, Stop the Bleed. There is a great push to teach the lay community, the public, how to control hemorrhage, because that's what through the Hartford Consensus, what they are identifying in some of these situations, specifically the active shooter, mass shootings that we've experienced throughout the United States, but also in some of the other sideline things, is that we know hemorrhage control is a problem in the trauma patients, and identifying hemorrhage and controlling hemorrhage from many standpoints. So what we want to do, and what there is a big push to do, is create a unified approach to this problem, and educating the healthcare professionals, but also educating the community, the lay people, on how to apply direct pressure, how to apply a tourniquet, making tourniquets more readily available in the community. Just as what we did with AEDs. We have taught lay people to recognize cardiac arrest and to intervene before they activate EMS, so that they can be there when we cannot, and offer that medical assistance that those patients need so desperately initially. So much effort is going to be put together as a nation to educate and bring awareness to this campaign, the Stop the Bleed campaign. There is the American College of Surgeons has created a new class. It's called BCON, bleeding control of the injured patient. And again, it's geared towards the community, the lay people. Yes, it's us as healthcare providers. We need to get on target and have tourniquets in our ambulances and have tourniquets in our hospitals. But it's really focusing on trying to bring that initiative. So I know that there are many in the state that this is going to be their big unified approach for injury prevention for 2016. And from an educational standpoint, professional education, public education, you're going to be seeing a lot of this. The White House released the initial press release and did the whole spiel at the end of September, beginning of October. So this is relatively new information. And the whitehouse.gov has great information on the fact sheet of where all of this is coming from. So that is one of the big initiatives. And I think, I know this is going to be a huge topic at most of the meetings and discussing that, but how does the committee feel about supporting that, moving forward with that, leading that, and as we work on our distracted driving evidence thing, but also supporting the Stop the Bleed and the BCON initiatives?
I think it's a cool thing because I know, Courtney, there's already some that, like Courtney said, the ACS has developed this program, and it's going to be an easy way, not easy, but it's already prepackaged, and it's going to be fantastic as a state to have a statewide focus. So I think it's a good thing.
I'm all for stopping bleeding.
Well, and it's scary that this is coming out of active shooters, but so many of us, you have hemorrhage control issues in different things, motor vehicle crashes, motorcycle crashes, where the same can relay over there. And the principles are still there: bleeding, stop the bleeding. So big and small, little events, big events, I think it will be something beneficial. And, the concept of having a tourniquet in every AED location, I think that's a fabulous one. And so, it kind of, building on what is already in existence. I think that's what we do best in that aspect. So, public comment, general comment, as we transition to that. I'll ask the audience in just a minute, but one of the things that I would like to bring up in the public comment is we the Injury Prevention Committee was approached by the League of Women Voters of Texas and has a nice little letter if anyone's interested in doing it. But what they would also like is for us as a state to work on our recognizing and looking at our firearm injury data and deciding where and what impact that has in our patient population. Looking at rural versus urban versus suburban versus fatal injuries, non-fatal injuries, different things with that, drugs and alcohol involved, and then trying to figure out, with some of the variations with ICD-9 versus ICD-10, looking at the type of firearms necessarily and their injuries and how those people are faring. So that was one of the asks for them, and I know it makes sense. As we approach, this is our planning year for the next legislative session that'll happen in 2017. This is going to come up. Whether we want to deal with it or not here in the state of Texas, it's going to come up. So maybe during this interim time, looking at the data and seeing what it says, so that good or bad, left, right, red, blue, you can see what the data says. Comments, questions?
So the FBI's uniform crime stats are probably a good place to start there.
So, perfect. So we will look into that and see what we can do, and see also perhaps what we might have from an injury standpoint.
Yeah, and the woman that came forward to our group, first of all, I just think it's fantastic that she found us as an organization, not just an injury prevention, but she actually approached the GTAC committee as well, and then they referred her to us because, we're injury prevention. And so she actually, and I'll have to commend the state and the registry on this, she went to them and requested a report on gun violence, because it's not, those numbers aren't just necessarily for us, they're for the state of Texas. And Colin has out there, if you haven't had a chance to look at the banners out in the front, that he's got some pie charts and some really nice graphics that you can just look at it and tell what's going on. But one thing that was interesting is, and that they also released to the League of Women Voters, was gunshot wounds or gunshot violence is the number 3 reason of intentional fatality mechanism of injury within our state, number 3. Yep. So, we all talk about guns, like Courtney says, red or blue, pink or yellow, it's important to get that information out there. So I do commend the registry folks and Colin for looking at that and bringing it up, and as well as being responsive to just a stakeholder.
Yeah, she had done a lot of legwork last legislative session. The League of Voters had the women because they had a very nice report from the registry, and they had done different things about it, and they just know that it's going to be more prevalent in the media in the future years, and so they want to be ahead of the game, and I commend them for that. Audience, public comment.
Hello. I'm Jennifer Northway. I'm with University Health System in San Antonio. 2 things. Because you mentioned the piece on gun violence, I do want to make folks aware they may not be aware of this. It's an awareness program, but Moms Demand Action has a Be Smart campaign, and it's simply about empowering families to talk with the parents of their children, their children's friends' parents about whether or not there's a gun in the home. Not you shouldn't have a gun, not whether that's right or wrong, but a very educational piece, really just meant to bring about awareness of having conversations with your other friends, or again, your children's friends' parents, about whether or not there's a gun in the home. So I thought I'd mention that in case people are interested in tackling that and want a place to start that's not going to pick a side on whether or not you should have a gun or use a gun safe or all of those things, but just simply how do you have a conversation. So you'd look up Moms Demand Action, and Be Smart is the campaign. But that's not really why I came up here. I was actually going to talk about something else, but you had me thinking about that, so I thought I'd share that. So I wanted to mention to the committee and to the other folks in the audience, 2 opportunities that I am hoping that we'll be able to kind of get off the ground. I know I've talked with some of the members of the committee and some of the members of the audience about the potential for the American Trauma Society bringing the Injury Prevention Coordinators course to San Antonio in January. I have not yet secured enough interested attendees to fully schedule that. My hope is that by mentioning this yesterday at the TTCF meeting and then here today, that I'll have enough folks that will come up to me, see my face, come tell me you're interested, so I can add you to the interested attendee list, and hopefully we will have enough folks to warrant hosting a class in San Antonio in conjunction with the Eastern Association for the Surgery of Traumas convention that will be in San Antonio. So come see me if you're interested in participating in that. It is a 2-day certification course. It's generally costs around $550. I know that Marianne has participated in that and provided great feedback in terms of how that class was structured and all of the different things that were covered. And I know there are several of us that are interested in participating. So let me know if that's something you want to be added to. And then the second thing I actually wanted to say is in conjunction with that East Conference in San Antonio in January, there is going to be an Injury Prevention Day at Jefferson High School. If you're interested in volunteering for that day, that would be great. We would love to have more volunteers. What happens is the surgeons that are part of the Injury Prevention and Control Committee adopt a school in the city that their conference is held in and host a day-long programming. At that particular school, we're going to be addressing motor vehicle crashes, as well as violence and substance abuse. So if you're interested in participating, also let me know. But we will be sending out information through the TTCF listserv. But if you're not a member of that, please come see me so that I could at least email you the information. The Injury Prevention Day is scheduled for Tuesday, January 12th, and it'll be from 7 to 5 p.m. Any questions for me? You guys are rock stars. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mark Montgomery from the San Antonio area. Just because you guys brought up the firearms and the firearm-related injuries, I strongly encourage you guys to look at the Eddie Eagle program. While it is sponsored by the National Rifle Association, it is an unbiased group that strictly looks at educating the younger children, that age group, in an unbiased format. That is a free program, or it's a grant-sponsored program, so that is a way to get the message out. But the other way to pull some of the data is through the National Shooting Sports Foundation. They are the ones who pull some of this. Using the FBI UCR, it doesn't always show the injuries. It might only show the actual intentional crimes. So it does give you a good starting point, but it may not have the all-encompassing data that you're looking for, and Shooting Sports Foundation may have that.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that organization, the National what?
National Shooting Sports Foundation.
Thank you.
So while they are for the promotion of shooting sports, they do start to pull some of this data and look at it. The uniform crime reporting from the FBI has the intentionals, but it doesn't always have maybe the preventables that you're looking at, or the accidental injuries, unless there was a crime committed necessarily. And even then, some of the reporting it's good. I mean, it gives you that starting point, but they have a lot more data on that as well. And then to encourage if you find a gun, don't pick it up type campaign, then definitely I would strongly look at that Eddie Eagle program. And they do have the sponsorship background for that. So.
Awesome. Wonderful. Wonderful. Any other comments, questions from the audience?
We got an hour.
Actually, we got 60 minutes left. The big red clock is staring us down.
Do you want to bring up the trauma program manager? If there's any trauma program managers here? About the 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, you can.
Guess I don't have anything to say. You're supposed to drop the mic when you're done.
Oh, that's the way. The Hartford issue. My name's Wade Olson. I am on the Education Committee. First of all, I'm not against it, but I do think we need to look at something. If we were going to do CPR, there's probably not anybody in this room that would do mouth-to-mouth. But we're asking people in certain cases to stick their finger in a thigh or their hand and pack it full of hemostatic bandage. If we're going to build on the existing, I'm okay with that.
Right.
but-
So I think in that consensus, when they're talking about building the kits that will have the tourniquet in them, there will be gloves and in some cases even masks and things. It's still all, but that is an excellent point to bring up.
You're correct, but there won't be enough, is what I'm getting.
Yeah.
I don't know how you provide enough.
Right.
But anyway,
Right,
the public's going to be handling blood,
right.
and they don't know how.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments, suggestions? Good comments? Are we calling this in? I know. See, yes.
Next meeting, January 29th is a workday meeting.
Yes, our next meeting is going to be January 29th. It's a workday meeting. It's going to be located in Parkland Hospital. I was like, it's in my place. So January 29th will be our next workday meeting. Again, the topic of and focus of that workday meeting, it will be probably focusing on the distracted driving prevention program, also looking at the, I'm sure we'll be approaching and reviewing the feedback from the hospital-based injury prevention components and then the Hartford consensus evaluations and updates and movements in that direction. So that will be our next meeting. The agendas will be posted. So with that, do I have we'll call the committee to close.
Make a motion.
Second? All those in favor, injury prevention is done. Now we can have a birthday party for a little boy that turned 1 today.